And welcome to another talk time. My name is Meredith McCarthy. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist here in Wellington, New Zealand, and I'm going to be joined later with a fellow colleague of mine, Teresa Saunders. If you've been following our series, Talk Time is talking about anything to do with hypnosis. And I run a school that teaches people how to do hypnotherapy. In this particular series, we're going to talk about different emotions, and our topic today is about resilience and cultivating resilience in challenging times. So I hope you enjoy today's session. Welcome, Teresa. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Meredith. Looking forward to this week's talk time. How are yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Been busy doing lots of things at home. I think you have as well.
It's that time of year, coming into spring.
Absolutely. So this series is kind of helping people, hopefully, who are interested in a career in hypnotherapy, or maybe just interested in following along and learning a few things. But we'll be covering how we apply it to hypnosis as well. So in a hypnotherapy session, how I work with a client to build up their resilience. So I've got a couple of slides that we're going to just journey through. And the first one is really looking at what resilience is. So when we're kind of looking at having the ability to bounce back, I don't know about you, but a lot of times we can get into the drudge of life and we can feel a little bit overwhelmed, and maybe we're not getting enough sleep, or perhaps work is a bit taxing, or family life, and our resilience levels may begin to slip. So often a client will start to present with an issue where they're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and really you're looking at what's their resilience levels, what's going on, are they able to bounce back, and if they aren't, they might be heading towards a level of burnout, and it may be presenting in things like depression and things like that. What's your take on resilience? When you think about that, what pops into your mind, Teresa?
Yeah, it's when sort of like, I guess in some ways beginning to be overwhelmed. If we're getting a bit too overwhelmed with just some of the minor things, our resilience levels have started to drop, and it may be time for us to start having a look at why that is the case.
Absolutely. So, showing that flexibility and finding ways to grow stronger through our experiences is a huge part of what we do with our client. We need to look at how do we support that client to reframe things, because people get stuck in their story and the emotion sort of is ruling the house, and sometimes that emotion is a high level of stress. So developing that resilience is not just about avoiding difficulties, but it's about building the capacity to navigate through them efficiently. Because, of course, we can't avoid doing life, right?
No, that's right. And we never know how things are going to be thrown at us and sort of pan out as the days go on. So if we learn to build our resilience to those, we can prevent some of that overwhelming feeling.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at the emotional regulation, the ability to manage our emotions, breathing is a really good go-to. So if someone's perpetually getting out of kilter with their emotional state, they may be in their fight, flight, freeze state, right? We've talked about this in other series that we've talked about in the way of the stress response and dealing with it. But, just to go over that again, taking a moment to breathe, just the simple art of breathing deeply, it will help to support your mind and your physical stress levels. So there was a wonderful research program that discovered when you breathe in twice in a row through your nostrils and slowly out through the mouth like a big sigh, it helps to send the signal into your autonomic nervous system to begin to relax. So that was through Andrew Huberman and a sleep study done through Stanford University a couple of years back. But there are different breathing techniques. Is there a favourite that you have when you were talking about teaching a client how to relax?
Not a favourite as such. I do adjust it, but one of the ones that I find for people that have difficulty focusing on their breath, and it's good for children, is when you're using your hand and you go like you breathe in and then you breathe out, breathe in and breathe out. And you follow your hand along like that, keep going up and down, because for some people they find that easier to follow instead of just focusing on their breath, and they can slow down as they go up and down because it's something tactile to do. Yeah,
I wonder where you learnt that one from.
I wonder. It's a good one from you, Meredith, and I use it, and kids love it. But also, I tell you, with something I do is I have in my clinic, I have lots of different pictures. So one will be a love heart, another one can be a house or a spiral, which I've turned into a snail and things like that. So I can get them to breathe in and follow with their finger and then breathe out.
Yes.
So, and then I'm sort of aiming this more at children. I mean, obviously, if adults want to do it, then they can do. But you can bring out these different pictures, and then children zone into one that they want, that they like the thought of, and then they can use that to actually touch and breathe as well.
Yeah.
Have
using. Yeah, that kinesthetic adaptation, so touching and breathing at the same time in a timing way, is extremely good at focusing yourself into the now. Because a lot of times, a lot of the tension sort of whirling and stress is happening because you're predicting maybe an unkind future, or you're thinking about the unkind past and how it's been affecting you. So if we can get into the now, if we can find ways to come back home and let's get centered on the breath in some way, that can be extremely useful as the first step to a client calming the farm. Yeah, awesome. Let's look at some more parts of this. So when we're looking at mindfulness, obviously that's a real trend. Finally, mindfulness is a fantastic thing, being here and now. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your body in the space, notice some sounds, notice the textures, think about the senses and being here and now and being mindful of how you're moving. If we are doing that more often rather than just an autopilot, we're mindlessly moving, if we can become more mindful about our movement, be more deliberate, that can often help us navigate the tricky times. When we're looking at that idea of practicing mindfulness, is there a particular technique that pops into your mind that you like to teach people?
No, not particularly, but when people say to me, like, I am mindful about things, and I'll say to them, okay then, so can you just trace yourself back as you came into my clinic and up those stairs? What did it feel like? Did you notice what it felt like as you walked up the stairs? Did you hear that squeaky floorboard? And then they start to realize that, oh, I thought I was being mindful, but actually no, I don't recall that. So it's quite a common thing for us to think we are being present in the moment, but we're not actually being that present. Again, we're on that autopilot mode.
A lot of times too, let's say you're a mum, you've got kids and you've got a lot of things on your plate and the dishes are the last thing you feel like doing. If we use that as an exercise of mindfulness, we can actually find it quite soothing. We can be present with the water. We can notice the sound of it. We can feel the sensations of the cutlery and the soapiness and all of these other things that are happening in that moment. And that can actually be very grounding for people. So if we come into these activities like preparing a food, chopping and smelling and seeing and doing all of these things, we can use that as a mindfulness practice. We don't have to just be quick and, rushing through mindlessly. We can absolutely use these everyday moments, making a bed, brushing your teeth. Let's do it mindfully. It just helps a lot to train the brain into coming back into the here and now, dealing with what's right in front of us and being fully present rather than racing all the time into the next task in our mind, racing away and not actually being present and even remembering that you did it. This can help cultivate a feeling of calmness and help with that resilience. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I bring myself back to one of the retreats that we did many years ago when we were doing the Pathway to Peace retreat, and we go down to the beach and we get people to draw a design on the beach, and then they do a walking meditation, and they're mindful about their steps. So they feel the foot. Do they put their toes down? Do they put their heel down first? What does that feel like when it touches the ground? And it's all done in silence. And I think when people start doing that, and like you said, even washing the dishes, and you start noticing what you're actually doing, because we're so busy that we'll wash the dishes, but have you really felt the temperature of that water unless it was particularly hot or really cold? Did you notice when you were actually doing in each individual fork or knife or plate as you washed it? Probably not generally. We're not focused on those things. So I do encourage people to start exploring that and putting mindfulness a bit more into their day, because you can do it in ordinary daytime activities. You don't actually have to say, right, I'm going to take 10 minutes or half an hour in my busy day to set aside separately. We can do it there and then when we're doing other activities.
I think cultivating a feeling of gratitude and joy from the simple things can also build up resilience for someone. Because if we just have the long list of to-do stuff and we're just racing, boom, 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 getting through the day and just barely surviving at the end of it, going to bed exhausted but can't sleep because we're worrying, if we were to do just a little bit more in that mindful way, just gently chunking it down into little sections and being fully present, you might find it quite nice, because then you can have that little celebration of doing a task and doing it well and being present and fully accounted for, and just pacing yourself gently through, and then you can look back and see all the things that you've achieved. Whereas if we're mindlessly moving through that quick, we don't even remember half of our achievements, let alone celebrate them, right?
Yes, so true.
So, when we're looking at that idea of mindfulness, I think there's so much we could keep on going really into that, but certainly something to think about. So you can turn around an overwhelming experience into a mindfulness journey if you want to. It's just all the way, it's about setting that intention of how you want to turn up to it. Let's look at self-efficacy, so that belief in yourself to influence an outcome. A lot of times people can automatically be in the pessimistic cycle of thinking, They're thinking about how it's going to be hard and how it's going to be take ages and all of these things. And so if we're fostering the wrong attitude to begin with, it's going to be really tricky to feel that buoyancy and to back ourselves in our ability to influence a positive outcome. We need to work on that internal confidence building. So a lot of times with my client, I'm looking at, how do you want to feel? Not how don't you want to feel, but how do you want to feel? So I want to feel calm. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel confident when I go and do this, and this, rather than feeling anxious and pessimistic and beating up on myself all the time and feeling guilty for not having done enough or something like that. So typically a client will present to us these sort of typical feeling low, general lethargy of like disinterest in what they're doing, and they just don't feel like going to work or dealing with the kids or dealing with the marriage or whatever it might be that they have to deal with. And that resilience level's really, flatlining. So when we're looking at that self-efficacy, your own inner conversation is key. Yeah.
Yeah, and which falls into our positive thinking and changing the way we actually think and feel.
Yeah. So cultivating that positive thought. Thoughts have energy. So if let's look at a TV program for a moment, and you're watching a suspenseful kind of edgy, a bit gory kind of plot. How do you feel inside?
Yeah, well, you start to then get on edge, don't you? I mean, sometimes you can even start gripping the chair or sort of like holding on and moving close or sitting further afield. And, when that loud noise comes, sometimes you even jump out of your skin, don't you?
Yeah. So inside our mind, we've got a movie theatre going. So if we've got it on channel negative, instead of channel positive, we're going to start to generate these negative emotions. It's, shift mind, body is listening. So if we want to cultivate that positive idea and feeling, then we're going to have to feed it. We're going to have to think about things in a positive way. It's a nice thing to think about in the way of this. If you're the narrator of your story, why would you want to put that everyone suffered in your story? Like, you could really change that storyline. So everyone lived happily ever after. What does that mean for me to live happily ever after? And are there some things that I could start to foster as an internal thought that's going to help me to be in line with that I want? Because if we keep on advertising all the things I don't want, well, we start to give energy to that we don't want.
That's right. Another way of looking at it is also listening. When you listen to music, if you can really, most people, I would think that, especially those that listen to music, when something comes on that's sad, then sometimes that can actually bring your mood down and you start to have sad thoughts. But if you put on something that's more vibrant and happy music, that can lift your spirits as well, and then you also get more energy in doing that.
For sure. And, think about your environment. Like, are you listening to your favorite tunes? Are you having aromatherapy in your environment? Have you got the right lighting? Or is it all about sort of, just getting shit done? And you forgot that you could actually bring into your environment some resources, some tools to make it nice and to elevate that positive thinking. So if you've got a nice piece of art in your space that you could admire, or you get some fresh flowers, or you have some shells that you picked up on the beach and you could just touch them and reconnect to them. All of these things can generate those positive thoughts too. So they become positive anchors that then trigger a thought sequence that's more uplifting.
The same with scents as well. So you can use your aromatherapy. I mean, you smell walking down the street and you smell sort of the fresh baked loaf of bread or a nice coffee or something. And yeah, your moods can change with that as well.
For sure. Yeah. So adaptability. So this is that ability to adjust to new circumstances. Now, if you are imagining success, you're more likely to adjust. If you're imagining only all the things that are going to go wrong, all the things that you feel are going to be challenging and so on, well, you're going to get stuck in that. So it's really important that we are adjusting to the new circumstances and finding a story that we want winning. We want to build that story and embrace that change in some way. So what is this new change teaching me? How can it cultivate that flexibility? Because I think if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if we actually get used to change and embrace change more often, we're going to be change masters. If, however, we get stagnant for way longer than we need to be and we don't have these fresh challenges, then sometimes our hypersensitivity gets triggered and we feel fear for change, right? So it is important that we cultivate that adaptability often and frequently. So we're inviting ourselves to do new and challenging things. We exercise that part of our brain, that belief brain that says, yes, I can turn up and I can do this new thing. Now, saying that, I also want to think about the idea of juggling too many balls. So sometimes people were doing fine, and then one extra ball came in that they had to juggle. And that's where the resilience level starts to drop out. And so sometimes it's important to do an audit and an edit of what's going on, because there might be some tasks that you are in. This is very common with many of my clients. They come in and they're yes people. They want to people please, right? So they go, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. And before they know it, they're doing so much, it's too much. And then this extra thing comes in, and then they go down. So the art of saying, no, sorry, I don't have that capacity, or giving back something that you don't really need to be handling. So have a think, is there something in your world, or when you're dealing with a client, asking them, are there some things that you've been doing just out of habit that you don't have to do anymore? Can they be done by someone else or in another way that helps you not to have to juggle so many balls? So investigating and looking at that client's world, what are they doing that is causing them to feel overwhelmed all the time? Are there some things they can extract, like get rid of, let things go? I had a client, actually, it comes to my mind, and he was a volunteer in 3 places. And it took up quite a lot of time. And what happened was one of the volunteer board, he was a board member, there was a problem. And it became quite legal and long-winded, and it was taking more and more time. So what was normal for him to juggle these other things plus his normal job suddenly became too much. And so what we had to do there was do a bit of an audit and an edit and go, okay, well, are there some roles that even though you really love, right now, because you've got this commitment, they're just too much? Are there some things you can just let go for a while? It doesn't have to be forever, but just for a while, and see how that feels. And he actually did that. He went and said, look, I'm going to have a bit of a break for 4 months and then reassess whether I can come back on board at that capacity. And as soon as he did that, he started to feel this weight off him. It's not that he didn't enjoy all of these roles. Obviously he did. But when one really takes over and just takes more than you have, but it's still really important and you don't want to drop it, you don't want to leave that alone, maybe some other things may need to be let go of or just put on the shelf for a bit and then come back to them later.
You can't keep giving, all the time. You've got to fill your cup as well. Yeah, because otherwise the cup gets empty.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, these are things to think about in a strategic session with someone, to go, okay, what is their world? What might be going on that could be causing a sort of lack of resilience, that feeling like they're going to go under? They're not sleeping well anymore, what's going on? And that's a sign that they're maybe heading into burnout in some way. Yeah. Let's look at some more slides. So we've gone over the 3 things here, which are emotional regulation techniques, right? So the deep breathing, the mindfulness, and the reframing of thoughts. So if you have any questions about these things, please, you flick us a line. We've got comments switched on. You can get us through the website as well, nzach.ac.nz. But if you wanted to find out more about this, also I'm teaching a whole diploma course that you can learn to drill down into these things and how best to work through a client session. And I will be doing demonstrations and things, so you'll kind of really see the nuances of how we go through and unpack a client. But the importance of positive thinking and learning from challenges. This is one that I would like to talk on. I believe that if someone says, why is this happening to me? They're going to drill down into the victim space. Okay, very quickly, they switch on to victim mode and they go, why? And it doesn't get better from there. So if you can go, what would I like to learn from this? It changes things. It changes the way you see it. If you see it as a learning opportunity, automatically it has value. If you just see it as a nuisance of something that you'd rather just disappear, it's going to stay in a burden energy to you, like you were slighted or robbed or wronged in some way. So it's really important, if you want to heal and if you want to move forward, to look at those challenges as opportunities of learning. And that gains wisdom and insight, right? So that will build natural resilience, because you then have that insight. And so when you come across something in a similar way, you have a better story wrapped around it. You've got a better way of seeing that situation. Reflecting on those past challenges can provide those insights, really helpful for the future. Contemplating that gratitude. I feel grateful that I learned that lesson. Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to learn as well, that it's okay to say, no, I'm not able to do it at the moment. I haven't got the capacity to do that, or to ask for help if they need it. It has in the past sort of seemed to be a bit of a burden, or people feel that they cannot say no to people because then they're not a good friend or a good parent or something like that. But you do have to look after yourself so that you can keep some resilience. You can't keep on giving and let that completely go. And I think people need to normalize that it is okay to say no. Sometimes just saying, no, I'm afraid I can't do that. I need time for me. And people should understand that, and they should, acknowledge it, accept it. And you might even find if you say no, then they say, is there anything I can do to help you? And then you start and you change your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. When we're looking at dealing with clients and thinking about hypnotherapy, so let's talk about that for a moment. You gather what's going on for the client, right? And you gather what is that they want to reinforce. What are the changes they want to create? And then you can take them on that hypnotic journey to reinforce those very changes. You can get them to imagine that success, or you can use metaphors like a mountain, standing at the bottom of a mountain and it's in front of you, and all you have to do is take one step at a time and trust that you have all of the things that you need to be able to navigate that mountain easily. And once you get to the top of that mountain, how good you're going to feel. So you can start to lead that client using great metaphors that are very universal, okay? And you can also do very direct suggestion, like once you get that done, how good you're going to feel, and it's not long now, and each day that passes, it's getting closer and closer, and you feel more and more excited. So you can start to elicit a change of state, a positive change of state when we're dealing with people who are feeling flatlining, like they've just had enough. The other one is too, let's say someone's in an abusive relationship or someone is in an abusive work environment. What is our job as therapists? What are your thoughts on that, Teresa, in the way of someone's presenting and they're going, I'm really struggling with this. What do we need to be careful about in that therapeutic relationship?
You don't want them to actually use you as somebody that they feel is going to be, I've forgotten the word of it now, but you don't want them to come to you so that you're support all the time and propping them up and they're relying on you to fix their problems all the time. But you also have a duty of care to a certain extent of the well-being of your client. And if it is a really abusive relationship, then you have a duty to actually contact the relevant authorities or people for this well-being of your client, whether that's where they're going down like a suicide track, or whether they're actually being harmed in any other way by a third-party person, and that they need help.
This is important. We were talking earlier about forms that we get clients to fill out. And on that form, there should be your client's rights and also when you might breach confidentiality. And that would be when you're in harm, So there's something happening or harm of others, like you would hurt other people, or you are in harm. So there is an obligation. In New Zealand, I can't talk for the rest of the world, okay? So under New Zealand law, we have an obligation to be able to act upon that in a very, very mindful way, because it's not okay for someone to stay in an unsafe environment. But we also need to be mindful of how we go about that. That doesn't create a volatile situation by doing it in a clumsy way. So we need to be very mindful. Please take that to supervision. Talk about, your options and do it in a timely way. So if your supervision session is not coming up anytime soon, book it now. Like, if there's an urgent thing that day, you get on the phone call, even if it's 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, to talk through it with your clinical supervisor and address it and then action it urgently. That's really important because time matters in these situations.
Definitely.
So intake forms, just be aware of, what kind of information you're gathering and that the client knows their rights, and also you're in line with the laws that you are governed under. The other one is not to get into
it was codependency is what I was thinking about. It came to me when I was thinking, what's that word?
Yeah. So would you like to explain codependence so people can understand that?
It's where somebody then is expecting you to sort out their problems, so it's coming back again and again to you rather than sorting it themselves. So I'm a firm believer, as I know you are, that your client has the answers within. They actually do all the work. We're just sitting there guiding them, giving them some tools, but they actually have the answers. It's not for us to do the answers for them, because that might not work for them. They're different to what I am and what you are. The way they behave and their thought patterns and that are different. And yes, we are trying to flip some of them, reframe them and make them positive. But again, that will happen in a different way for me and you and our client. They have the answers. But when codependency was, they're expecting you, they're sort of coming along wanting you to fix everything for them because they feel that you're the only one that can do that for them. It's not them that's moving forward, and that's something to watch out for, because that can be very harmful.
Yeah, that is a really good thing to think about. It's the kind of questions you might ask the client if they start to say, what do you think? You are moving into a trap of codependence. So as soon as your client asks you that thing, what would you do in my situation? Be careful, because it's not your situation and you will do something quite different, and your client has to live with that outcome. So you're not piloting your client's world. The client is. And it's so important that the client is in charge of their self-actualization, their own light bulb moments. So how does a client get there? Through good questions. You need to be asking really good open-ended questions that results in that client joining their own dots. So it could be, What would it be like if you left? What would it be like if you stayed? So, it gets the client to think about the pros and cons of leaving or staying.
How are
Now,
you feeling now?
what's stopping you from leaving? What's in the way? What would need to change for you to be able to do that? This is where our core counseling comes in. That really good listening, pacing with the client, not rushing to the end where you're forcing a client to go and take actions that weren't ones that they came up with. They need to own those actions. Otherwise, you're going to get resistance from your client. Yeah. So that's a great thing to think about as we're working with building up resilience with the client, building up that confidence and celebrating their ideas. You are okay to be a cheerleader for them, to say, that sounds fantastic. Let me know how it goes. Oh, I'm really happy for you. So you're backing them, but it's come from them.
And even if they come back the following week and say, I've had a really bad week and none of this has happened, and you find some moment, because there will be some little opportunity there where they actually did have resilience, and you acknowledge it and you share with them. So it did happen. You can do it. You are making ways forward.
Definitely. So look, are there any other sort of things that you would like to add to this talk time today, Teresa, that we haven't already covered?
I know we had a vast more to actually cover, Meredith, on this. I did wonder whether, with time going on and that, whether we wanted to do a follow-up next week and as a continuation to this part, because you had like an interactive part as well.
I tell you, though, if someone wants to learn, okay, if someone is ready to come on board and become a student, a hypnotherapy student, and work out how to work with clients, you will have the ability to dive deeper into these things. I've got slides, and we can talk to the slides, and we can get further and further into it and create discussions and really get that deeper level of understanding and competency about how to hold that session and how to run that session. I think that's probably an important thing. I've got, I guess, a good topic I don't want to put off for the next talk time.
Oh, true. Our next topic, which is a very good one. But like you say, you're not going to actually, some courses just cover a particular topic each week and that's it. You don't teach like that, Meredith. It's going to be weaved in. You're going to follow it over. So if people don't learn it in that one weekend or whatever, don't panic. You're going to have opportunities to go through it again. And believe me, Meredith will not let you leave and complete your diploma without you understanding what you've actually moved forward and you've been hoping to learn through that diploma.
It's broken my heart over the years to see so many trained and just not come out the other side and finish their diploma. And unfortunately, back then I didn't have any control over that because it wasn't my school. I was just a trainer. But now it is my school. And I'm going to train to that level and support at that level that I think people deserve, that's going to give them the competency and confidence to go out there and start their own practice and build it really well and be an excellent hypnotherapist for those clients coming to you. Hypnotherapy, the fundamentals are actually quite basic, but we've got to break away from being the best friend or
script bound, sorry, as well, I think is a big one.
Yeah. So a coach that's telling you how all the time. We've got to be really clever about how we hold that space and we utilize the tools in our craft. So yeah, if you're keen on learning that, please go visit the website www.nzach.ac.nz. It's going to be an exciting journey for you, and I'm not going to do you as just a statistic. I actually want to get to know you. I want to get to know how are you working, how are you growing, and really support you on that. Okay, so that's how I work anyway.
Now,
Teresa,
Meredith, yeah, I'm
yes.
dying to say something new. So I heard, okay, a little rumor. Now I want to know whether this is true, which you can perhaps share with our viewers today. Now that we've touched on the diplomas and that you are actually thinking of adding another course so that those that have actually studied a diploma but have not finished, like they've finished the course but have not actually got their diploma certificate for one reason or another, that you're looking at setting up a course where they can come along, do assessments and do a final exam and actually get their diploma. You know, you'll support them to get that certificate, which is
You'll
really
have all the resources of the full diploma, but it can fast track you through and look at where you're lacking, where you feel like you haven't quite got there, and I can really do some master classes and drill down and really critique that, so you then can go through and do the assignments that aren't labor intensive. Trust me, they're designed. I'm a dyslexic person, right? So the last thing I want to do is 1,000 essays. So that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking at people who can demonstrate that core competency. So if that means you video yourself, or I see a session and then I can break it down and offer you through it, I can support you through it step by step, that's going to help you to shiny up. And that's what we want. We want competency in real ways, not just in a theoretical way. It's fine to have theory, but it's about application. Can you apply that? And that's what I'm looking for. So when I'm assessing people, it's not just me, by the way. I'm not the one assessing people. I will support you, but we do have another assessor as part of our school. So there's many eyes on you, helping you through this. So have a think about that. You know, if you've not quite done, for whatever reason, finished your proper diploma, but you've got banked up some knowledge, but you just need support to get across the line. Yes, I'm working on a bridge course that's just going to help you to get over the line and finish that, so you can get and work with clients and build up your practice. So there you go.
That's one out there, isn't it? We want hypnotherapists out there, not that have just been and done a certificate and got a piece of paper. We want them actually out there practicing, helping others.
Absolutely. And look, I've got my Wellington space, so if you can travel and come to Wellington, you're welcome to come here in person. Otherwise, though, if you're not in Wellington, that's fine too, because I do a lot of stuff online, so we can support people in different ways. I'm very eclectic with the way that I'm going to teach and the way that I want to support each individual, so it's not just one size fits all. A lot of times people can't read a lot, and so I'm going through each single module, and you have a video to watch, and you have the auditory thing you can listen to and watch the video and so on. So it locks in, it helps you to learn. So if you're not that person that can sit down and read and think you're going to retain it, then check out the school and see what the resources are there. I'm happy to do a discovery call too, a free one, like no obligation or anything like that. You can just have a chat with me and I can talk about what's involved, and you can decide what you want to do. And also I have a 30-day money back guarantee. So look, if you do hop in and then you have a look at the stuff that we have in the back end and you go, nah, it's not really me, you can hop out again, and that's no obligation, okay? Because I want people to have the confidence to step up and be who they need to be. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I don't want necessarily to have someone who's unhappy on a course. They might be happier doing someone else's course, and that's fine. But, you know, I really want to support students to become the best hypnotherapists that they can possibly be.
So on that, subscribe, like, share, get Meredith's school out there and sign up. Ask questions too if you want.
And drum roll, next talk time, we are going to be doing embracing love and compassion. This is our talk time series. We're drilling into emotions, so embracing love and compassion. So we're going to talk about that from a hypnotherapy point of view. So I hope you've all enjoyed today's talk time, and see you again another week. Thank you very much, Teresa. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Meredith. It's been a great week. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Cool.
Bye, everybody.